5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have ignition. Strap in. You're about to listen to the hottest sounds in the mix. In the mix.
Peace and elevation. It's your brother Mike X. Welcome to the Wake Up Project. Peace, family. Please share. Invite, other people that you know that might gain something out of participating in the empowering discussions that we have here on the Wake Up Project podcast. I'm gonna be doing the same thing. Tonight, I want to hear your voices. Definitely call in. I'm gonna strive to get as many people to call in as possible. I'm gonna give you 2 to 3 minutes to, make a comment or ask a question, and because I want to keep the lines open. And you could call back in as many times as you want to call in. I definitely appreciate the support of all of the family who has been giving of their time, whether watching on the Facebook Live, coming on, calling in, the people who have been in my inbox, giving their thanks and appreciation, for the effort, that we're making here. It means so much to me, family. And I'll thank you 1,000 times, man, because I think that thanking people and letting them know that you appreciate their effort, especially when that effort doesn't have to be given, is so important, So, tonight, we're going to be talking, 2 weeks ago, I showed a video called "We Have Lost the Trust and Respect of Our Youth." And it was a video that I shot a few years ago. And I showed it at the end of the show when we really didn't get a chance to go into talking about our deteriorated relationship with our young people in these black and brown neighborhoods. Tonight, we're asking the question, what do we need to do as parents and adults to reassert our positive presence within the Black/African neighborhoods? And I asked the question, what do we have to do as adults? Because the fruit doesn't fall too far from the tree, family. We have to set a positive tone. And the reason why the relationship has deteriorated to a large degree in our communities is because we have been knocked off our square. And we are not practicing the relationship amongst each other as parents and adults, which would empower us to be able to go after our children, not in, ridiculing and judging them, but from the power of, cohesiveness, as parents, to be able collectively for us to do the things that we need to be doing in our own lives, so that we can be who we need to be and become, again, in the lives of our children and in the neighborhoods. They're going to follow our lead, and we're going to continue to talk about that tonight as the show goes on. So, the number to call in is 718-705-4959 or 914-969-6499. That's 718-705-4959 or 914-969-6499. Okay? So, last week was the 93rd born day. The anniversary of Malcolm's 93rd born day was last Saturday, May 19th. And we dedicated our show, our Sunday show, on the 20th to El Hajj Malik El Shabazz, Minister Malcolm X. It was a powerful show. We brought out a lot, not just about Malcolm's life and his legacy, but also we talked about his beliefs and what he wanted to see us pursue in our lives and in our neighborhoods. And, you know, Malcolm felt that we need to come together, and through the power of our unity, put that on vibrate. That's my text notification. Yeah, Malcolm wanted us to be able to relate to ourselves and to our community the same way that other successful, prosperous groups in this American system relate to themselves and to their neighborhoods, you know. So the same way we see, you know, Little Italies and Chinatowns, and we see the Jewish communities doing what they're doing, and other communities that have carved out geographic enclaves, so to speak, areas where they dominate that area socially, politically, and economically. You know, one of the things that Malcolm challenged us to do was we need to be able to learn how to come together, unify ourselves as a people, and to use the power of our unity to help us to become strong politically, economically. We need to be thinking about how we can create the businesses that we need to be able to see and enjoy in our neighborhoods, the products and services. We need to be thinking about starting our own schools and mentoring programs. We need to dominate our community the same way other races and ethnicities dominate their communities. And if we're not striving to do that, then we got to begin to ask the question, how serious are we about some of the issues that we talk about, you know, in regards to the welfare of our children, the welfare of our elders, and, you know, ourselves, you know, as we're living this life. Yesterday, I went to the world famous 125th Street in Harlem, New York, the world famous Harlem. And 125th Street is the most famous avenue or business corridor, so to speak, in Harlem. And Harlem has changed so much in the last 20 years, family. I used to work in Harlem. I used to work in a GED preparation program in a building, I believe it's called the Lee Building, from memory, on the corner of 125th Street and Park Avenue. And in that time, Harlem has changed a whole lot, and the changing hasn't stopped. If you was here last week when I was talking on the show and I mentioned that there's a phenomenon going on in New York City, definitely. And I would like to hear from some of the other family members if they see some of this going on in the cities that they live in. And I talked about how in Brooklyn, in the Bronx, Queens, and Harlem itself, how you see rows and rows and rows of stores and buildings, you know, just going out of business. Gates rolled down, nothing happening there. And I talked about last week how we need to be able to take advantage of things like that. You know, we need to be able to come together in unity and harmony. We need to figure out what we need to see in our neighborhoods. It's not a situation where we should just divorce ourselves or disconnect ourselves from, you know, self-agency, self-determination. You know, self-determination is a term that was strong in the 60s. Self-determination. We want to determine for ourselves what's going to be going on in our lives, in our neighborhoods. We need to bring some of these terms back and resurrect those terms, you know, with attention, with focus, with life. We need to start figuring out how we can begin to determine for ourselves what's going to be going on in our neighborhood. So I was on the corner of, you know, where the Magic Johnson Theater is at, on 125th Street and I believe that's Frederick Douglass, in a building right next to the historic Amsterdam News building. There's a big building on that corner, and there was about like 6 or 7 businesses. You know, there was a drugstore there. I remember there was a Blimpies or a Subways, and there was some other stuff going on there. And I just looked up, and everything is gone. You know, in other areas, everything is gone. They shut down the world famous 125th Street Mart years ago. You know, and I was walking past there yesterday, and nothing has been placed there. That joint has been closed for like 20 something years now. And I just you know, with this, when we talk about the Wake Up Project, what are we waking up to, brother Mike? We're waking up to our humanity. We're waking up to our godliness. We're waking up to our power to use our lives, not to suffer, not to just, you know, sit there and things be done onto us, and we complain about the things that's done onto us, but never to get into a rhythm of our own. Again, where we are creative, where we are imaginative, where we become, you know, little gods, little goddesses, creating prosperous, abundant, thriving families, you know, and neighborhoods, to where there can be laughter, there can be safety again. You know, this is what we should be waking up to, that fight. Starting with ourselves as individuals, and then joining on to like-minded, like-spirited individuals, to where we can begin to build that unity that we say we want to see from the bottom up. There's not going to be a miraculous awakening of 40+ million people. Stop waiting for that to happen. There's not going to be a miraculous referendum drafted, and, you know, with an apology, you know, and reparations is granted to us. You know, I don't see it happening, especially without us using the power of our unity to force something like that to go down. The power of our unity politically, the power of our unity economically. I don't see the system changing in regards to Black America at this point in time. So we got to get ourselves together. Something that I forgot to mention in last week's show on Malcolm. I dedicate this show to the memory of Sister Jean Reynolds. I dedicate this show to the memory of Sister Jean Reynolds. Who was Sister Jean Reynolds, brother Mike? Sister Jean Reynolds was one of the most beautiful black women that ever existed. You know, that's who she was. She had an undying love for black people. No matter how jacked up or what new low we sunk to, this sister loved us so much, man, that she wasn't trying to hear anything else but things is gonna get better for us. I don't know how, I don't know when, but it is. This is the type of faith that she lived her life with. Sister Jean Reynolds was a member of the Nation of Islam in Mosque number 7 under Malcolm X. And when Malcolm X left the Nation of Islam in March of 1964 to start his organization of Afro-American Unity, Sister Jean Reynolds was one of the members, you know, that left with him and joined on to his organization of Afro-American Unity. And I had the joy, and I guess the luck in some ways, that when I woke up in 1991, you know, from being ignorant, from being self-hating, as this system has wanted a lot of us to be, by the killing, the assassination of our leaders, the destruction of our organizations that were designed to try to help us to heal from slavery, to heal from segregation, to heal from second-class citizenship. When I woke up from that, through the reading of the autobiography, and beginning the long process of healing myself as a black man in America. I had the luck, so to speak, to come into the presence of a group called the Malcolm X Commemoration Committee. And the Malcolm X Commemoration Committee was a group of former followers and comrades of brother Malcolm X, and they formed this group because they wanted to preserve the memory, the legacy of Malcolm X. And the group was formed particularly at that time, this was in 1992, 1993, due to the fact of the Spike Lee Malcolm X movie that had come out. And these members, they had some discrepancies with the movie, the Malcolm X movie, and they thought that the movie left out significant happenings, you know, in the life and legacy of Malcolm. And they wanted to make sure that their memory of Malcolm was preserved. And they did a number of events in the late the mid to late 90s. And as a matter of fact, the Malcolm X Commemoration Committee is still alive today. I'm no longer a member of that group, but they still do functions in the neighborhoods around supporting the lives of political prisoners, you know, people who have been imprisoned for their political beliefs. And they still, on May 19th every year, they still do the pilgrimage to Malcolm's gravesite, which is located in Dobbs Ferry, New York, at Ferncliff Cemetery. And I was able to meet a lot of wonderful members of Malcolm's comrades, Sister Jean Reynolds being one of them. You know, shout out to Herman Ferguson, shout out to Bruce Ellis, shout out to Brother Omar, Brother Jabban, Sister Joan, Brother Eddie Ellis. There was a lot of people in that group, and me as someone who was just becoming conscious, I don't know if I would be who I am and have the clarity that I have as far as our struggle, you know, to redeem ourselves if I hadn't belonged to that group. Well, anyway, Sister Jean used to tell this story, Sister Jean Reynolds. She told the story again and again of how Malcolm, when he had his declaration to form the Organization of Afro-American Unity, as a matter of fact, I'm getting it twisted. He formed the Muslim Mosque Incorporated, and then he formed the Organization of Afro-American Unity. But anyway, she said how she was so charged up on the power, the charisma of Malcolm X, that when he came off the stage, her and her husband had went to meet him at the bottom of, you know, the stairs from the stage. And she said that she came up to him and said, and went to say, "Brother Malcolm, I am for you." And she said that Malcolm cut her off before she even finished the sentence and said to her, "Sister, you don't be for me or nobody else. You be for the truth and what's right." He said, "Sister, you don't be for me or anyone else. You be for the truth and what's right." And that's the type of leadership that we need in the black and brown / African neighborhoods at this point. We don't need ego-driven leadership that's going to pump out their chest. And she used to talk about, she said this brother was so humble. He could have, you know, I came up to him getting ready to dedicate my life to him, and he could have pumped out his chest, you know, and got all big-headed with pride. He said no, but he directed her to the truth and what's right. He directed her to being able to discern for herself what she needed to be focused on doing for her own self as an individual and for the group at large. So anyway, I dedicate this show to Sister Jean Reynolds. May she rest in power forever. I definitely miss you, sis. And wherever you are at, I hope that somehow, some way, you know that your brother, your little brother, is still on the scene and still striving to do the best that I can. To breathe life into that faith that you had in us. Yeah. All right, family. So, the fruit does not fall too far from the tree. And the topic tonight being, what do we need to do as parents and adults to reassert our positive presence within the Black/African neighborhoods? I'm going to show a short video, a part 2, to the video that we showed 2 weeks ago. The video, the part 1 was, we have lost the trust. We have lost the trust and respect of our youth. And the part 2 to that, I'm going to show right now. And it's a quick 15 minutes. After the video, I hope that you will definitely call in with your questions and your comments so that we can shed light on what we need to be doing at this point in time. Not just as parents, but also as adults. Because we got to remember that our families have been decimated. Our neighborhoods have been decimated. And not everybody has an intact family structure at this point in time. We already know that a lot of our men are not in the households. And we also got to know that a growing number of our women, our mothers, are not in the household anymore either. And that a lot of our young people have found themselves being raised by grandparents and not even them being there. You know, a lot of our young people have found themselves in the system itself. So we can't just say that thing that they say all of the time, well, it starts in the household. Yeah, it's supposed to, the job is supposed to be rooted in a strong, stable household. But those strong, stable households are not there the way they used to be. The neighborhood at large has been torn asunder, and we don't practice the village concept anymore. It takes a village to raise a strong child. So anyway, let's go to the videotape. That sounded crazy. Let's go to the video, and I'll be back with you in a couple of minutes. Peace and blessings, family. This is Brother Mike X. Welcome to another clip from my YouTube channel, Brother Mike X Speaks. Tonight, I want to follow up on a clip that I shot 2 weeks prior, entitled, We Have Lost the Trust and Respect of Our Youth. And in that clip, you know, I wanted to spark some energy around this reality, you know, that our young people have, you know, lost trust and respect in us and have begun to develop a contempt for us, you know, and this is a situation that we have to deal with, you know, because as we know, our children are our future, you know, and we are supposed to be helping to shape and mold them so that they can play the role that they need to play in their own lives so that they can become, you know, the next wave of leaders, you know, responsible adults and other things. And so, you know, I'm happy to say that this clip, it created a lot of energy, you know. I primarily, you know, I posted it to my Facebook and to, you know, to the timelines and groups that I'm connected with through Facebook. And, you know, a lot of people, you know, they definitely were impacted and chimed in and offered, you know, a lot of feedback, you know what I mean? So I want to go through tonight some of the feedback that, you know, was brought forth and offered, you know, by many of the people that I connected with, you know, or connected with the video and was impacted by, you know, a controversial topic like that. And that's very controversial because, you know, as adults and parents, man, we like to, you know, think that we got it all on the ball. And when we look at our young people, a lot of times, you know, we want to blame them for, you know, the growing tide of waywardness, you know what I mean, that we see being manifested.
you know. So anyway, you know, some of the people, you know, some of the comments were like, you know, we got to stop trying to be their friend, you know. And, you know, I agree with that, you know, to a degree. You know, as adults, we have to maintain a moral authority, you know what I mean? That's based upon us knowing better, you know, due to the fact that we've been here longer. You know, we are supposed to set standards and principles, you know, that we bring them up by, you know, that will allow them to not make the same mistakes that we made, you know, and, you know, and avoiding those mistakes, you know, not risk, you know, some of the things that we, you know, have had to, you know, deal with, you know what I mean? You know, I talk to my son all the time as he was coming up, and I let him know, you know, that as a younger person, I was nothing like I am now. I was a knucklehead, man, you know, and there's reasons why I was a knucklehead, but the fact remains I was, you know, a knucklehead, you know, and I'm not, you know, yeah, I didn't have a father in the household, and yeah, there's racism out here, and yeah, the curriculums in school are lopsidedly leaning towards promoting white Eurocentric values and principles. And, you know, that was one of the reasons why I didn't strive to be educationally excellent, you know, when I was coming up. But, you know, the fact remains that, you know, I wasn't focused. I wasn't on task. You know what I mean? And because of that, you know, my life has been harder than what it would have been had I been, you know, led in the proper way. You know what I mean? So I talked to my son unceasingly as he was coming up, man, and laid my life bare for him, and constantly told him and talked to him about the fact that, you know, I regret not being on task. You know, I regret not knowing some of the things that I know now. And had I known some of the things then that I know now, you know, that I would have been very, very focused, you know, as I was coming up. And so having provided that to my son who was getting ready to turn 21 next month, you know, he's a much better man at his young age than I was when I was 21. And, you know, not taking all of the credit for it because, you know, his mom and my mom, his grandmom, you know, he had support, you know what I mean? But as a father, you know, as a male role model, you know, I was able to and made it my business, you know, to strive to be in his life, you know what I mean, and to strive to lay my life bare to him. And not only that, as an activist, as a student, you know what I mean, I you know, kept the pressure on, you know, my son as he went through school. So not only did he have to deal with, you know, the curriculum inside the school, but he had to deal with his dad's curriculum, you know what I mean, because I constantly was in his ear, you know, challenging him and making him read and study so that he would know who he is as a young black man coming up in America, you know what I mean? And to his credit, he took advantage of that, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, first and foremost, we have to set that moral standard for our children, you know what I mean? We can't be their friend. We can be friendly with them, you know what I mean? But we cannot be their friend, you know what I mean? Some of the people talked about, yo, you know, the answer to, you know, our young people losing trust and respect for us. You know, a lot of people came with whoop they behinds, you know, physical discipline, punishment. And, you know, I gotta say, you know, I never once hit my son. Never once hit my son. You know, like I said, I lectured him to death. You know, I lectured him to death and talked to him about society and about, you know, what the expectations are and how hard it is for black people in general and black men in particular. You know what I mean? Because I was striving to turn the light on, you know what I mean, in his life so that he could discern what's what and he could avoid the things that tripped me and my generation up. So I lectured him to death. But I say this, family. And I work with young people. I've been working with young people for about 22, 23 years. And I presently work in non-secure detention. And I work with young people, the same young people we talk about that have lost a lot of respect for us. I work with them. And I got to admit, a lot of these young people, they are so jaded. They are so pessimistic. You know what I mean? you know, that they will, you know, make you want to touch them up. You know what I mean? I can't lie about it, family. You know what I'm saying? But I say this to those who advocate, you know, whooping their behinds. You know, I say this, after you whip their behind, then, you know, or you know, and you get their attention, you know, then what do you do? You know what I mean? If you don't have nothing else, like, you know, if you're forced to tap them up to get their attention and you don't have no consciousness, no awareness, no knowledge, no wisdom, no understanding to follow up with, now that you got their attention, if that's all you got to offer is hitting them with a belt or whatever the case may be, then yo, family, that's only going to work for a little while. And really, it's only going to work while they're in your presence. You know what I mean? When they get out of your presence, they're going to go ahead and do whatever they was doing the whole time. When they in their presence, yeah, they may walk a little bit straighter. You know, they may watch their mouth. They may, you know, what have you, because they know that you're there. But once you're not there, when they're not in your presence, they're going to go ahead and do what they was doing the whole time because you haven't affected their mentality. You haven't affected, you know, their spiritual point of view. So, you know, that whole thing of whooping their behinds, you know, nah, that's deficient. You know what I mean? And like I said, you know, if you have a, you know, a young person who is, you know, willful, you know, putting it in the nicest way possible, yeah, you might have to tap them up. I'm not going to say that you know, I'm not going to say that you shouldn't do that if you need to do that, man, to really get their attention. You know what I mean? But, yo, I say again, make sure that you are the type of individual that is a studious person. You know what I mean? That learns, has put some time into learning our history, learning what we have been through as a people. You know what I mean? So that you can help them to understand why things are the way they are today. You know what I mean? You know, make sure you are proficient at dropping science on them, you know, kicking knowledge to them, however you want to say it, so that they, you know, will respond to the truth that they hear. Because truth, you know, even some of the ones that are most wayward, if you speak the truth, you know, to our young people, they will give pause. You know what I mean? They may not stay there because a lot of them have been so conditioned and some of them have never heard truth before. You know what I mean? So, you know, they might not stay in that truth in the short term. But if you're able to paint a picture and help them to understand, you know, how we came here and why we were brought here, you know, and how what's going on today is being done to us by powerful forces to try to keep us from rising, you know what I mean, as individuals and as a people, they will listen to you. You know what I mean? They'll listen to you. So you got to get your mind right. You got to get your spirit right. You know what I mean? And don't rely upon a belt or, you know, tapping them up to work. You know what I mean? Because it'll work a little while, maybe while they're young. But when they start to rise and weight and get to be about the same size as you or grow past you or whatever, you know what I mean? As they get older, that's not going to work. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to care. They'll take a couple of slaps, a couple of swings, you know, hits with the belt, man. And they're going to go after what they find important. You know what I mean? Materialism and, you know, peer pressure and all of these things is going to be more powerful than a couple of taps with that belt. So that can't be it by itself, family. Another thing that, you know, people were talking about, you know, because we was talking about how it used to be when we was together as parents and adults, and how, you know, we was together and we helped to check and discipline each other's children. You know what I mean? So that child knew that even when mommy and daddy wasn't around, there were other eyes watching, because we had those types of relationships in our community. So not only did they watch themselves when they was in our presence, they watched themselves in the community in general, because they knew somebody was probably watching me, because we had that type of cohesiveness at that time. And so some of the people who responded to the clip that I put up was like, yo, we don't have that no more. And we've become so disconnected that many parents, you know, have the type of attitude and mindset of, yo, who are you? Don't say nothing to my child. You know what I mean? Don't discipline my child. That's my child. You know what I mean? And because as parents, we've become so short-sighted and narrow-minded that we get mad at other parents when they check our children. That has sent a message to the children. You know what I mean? That, I'm not going to listen to any other adult besides my parent. You know what I mean? Or, or I don't even listen to my own parents, so why am I listening to you? Family, we got to get back to a point, man, where we help each other, where we know we need one another. We got to model to the kids that we are together as parents and adults. You know what I mean? And we give power to each other to watch over the interests, of us as parents, of these children. We got to show, yo, this is my neighbor. This is my friend right here. And we got to say this to our children. You know what I mean? You are to respect adults, and you are particularly supposed to respect this person. You know what I mean? And I'm empowering them, to keep an eye out on you. And if they catch you doing wrong, I'm empowering them to rebuke you, to check you. You know what I mean? And then when they tell me, what you did, I'm going to get at you. And if you disrespect this person, you know what I mean? I'm going to get at you. That's the type of thing that we have to rebuild and regain. You know what I mean? We got to show these young people that we have respect for each other as parents and adults. You know what I mean? Because that's what's going to help them to begin to have respect for us and for other adults. And that's the type of village practice that we need to bring back into our neighborhoods. We talked about the need for humility. We got to get humble, family. We dropped the ball. You know what I mean? And some were like, yo, I do what I got to do, and I'm the best parent I could be. Yeah, okay, that's great that you're a good parent. You know what I mean? But the subculture that our young people are subscribing to is way more powerful than you as an individual parent. So we got to enlist. We got to form up like Voltron. You know what I mean? Showing my age. We got to come together. You know what I mean? And be just as powerful as the subculture, or more powerful than the subculture, as we strive to raise our children. You know what I mean? We have to come together. We got to support each other, because check this. Every family doesn't have a dynamic adult in the mix. You know what I mean? So it doesn't just matter that you're a dynamic adult. If your child's friend is not a dynamic adult or an empowered adult, you know what I mean? And morals and standards and values are not being reinforced in your friend's house, you know what I mean? That's going to be a danger to you keeping your child in check. So there's many other issues, family, and I'm running out of time, but stick with me. We're going to continue to deal with this one. Peace and blessings.
Peace, family. Peace. Welcome back. All right. Towards the end of that video, there was a phone call trying to come through, and I was trying to wait till the video was over. So whoever that was, if you're on the live feed, call back in. Call back in. The number is 718-705-4959. Peace. Peace and elevation. Welcome to the Wake Up Project with Brother Mike X. Let us know who's calling, and please let us know and where you're calling from, and please let us know what's on your mind.
Peace. Peace, Brother Mike. This is Sister Vita.
Hey. What's going on, family?
I was listening to what you were speaking about, and you were so very right. All the points you touched on was good.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the major things we have not going for us is the transient neighborhoods. Back in the day, families stayed on the blocks for a few generations, and people knew each other and trusted each other. With the transient neighborhoods we have now, they're here today and gone tomorrow. So there's no trust among the neighbors. There's no lookout person like it always used to be, the old man or the old lady on the block that looked out for our children. So that's been missing.
Mm-hmm.
What else? It was a lot of good points that you touched and whatnot. And then the broken families, as you said before, a lot of our children are in the system, especially starting with that great crack genocidal plan that was put into effect in the 80s. And so we have much more children that have been raised by the system than we ever had before, that's raised on no love, no information. And young parents, young parents. I mean, I believe I was a much better grandmother than I was a parent, and I was a decent parent. But, you learn as you grow older and with more experience.
Mm-hmm.
But the main thing I feel to tie all this in, it has to be the history. Obviously, we know it's not the schools. It's definitely not the churches. The churches can give you certain values or certain principles, but it really doesn't help our condition, as a whole. I frequently tell people, that I think we're praying to the wrong God, but a lot of people get offended, by that because of their indoctrination. But I feel history has to be the key. Once we really know who we are and understand it, and we, pump this into our children, it will change them. I feel it has to change. That's how we get our Malcolms and the warriors that we had before. Once they learn, once you learn the truth, you know what to do and how to change and how to make changes. But that's all. That's just my little piece. I had to say my thoughts and feelings on it. But like I said, you were right on point on all your issues. And thank you for putting this out.
Yeah, thank you too, sis. I thank you for everything that you've done over your lifetime to strive to become, the person that you are. Not just as the, as an educator, but just as you, And I hope that we can catch up soon.
Yes. I know I've been on the go so much, but I will. Well, I'm home this week, so I'll call you later on this week.
Okay.
All right, then.
And
Peace.
call back in if you feel it, that you would like to.
Okay, will do.
All right. Take care, sis.
All right, bye-bye.
Peace, family. I'm gonna address some of the things that Sister Vita spoke to. I think social media is dope if you use it as such. Let's go to the phone call. Peace and elevation. Please state your name, where you calling from, and let us know what's on your mind this evening.
Peace and elevation, my beloved brethren. This is Silverina Porter.
Hey, what up, sis?
Hey, brother, God and family right now. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in for a minute, because it's on my heart to speak.
Mm-hmm.
On the topic of our children, when it's concerning our children, we have to, like the Word of God say, time to start taking the covers off.
Mm.
Inverted humanata. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm saying is, when I speak about these things, we need to educate our children as well as our people right now on the. There's only two lineages. And
Mm-hmm.
right now, the two lineages, one is Cain and Abel, and the other one is the son of the devil. You know what I'm saying? And Jesus came through the bloodline. You know what I'm saying? And our bloodline, as true ethnic Israelites, who we are as a people, this is what needs to be taught, what needs to be put out there. You know what I'm saying? There's scriptures that, that lead to this as well, and these things will help, help us unite as a people, like the sister was just speaking about. We had families on the blocks for years, own their houses, you know what I'm saying, and they own property, in the community. It's economic development when it comes to us as a whole, you know what I'm saying? And there's so much, you know what I'm saying, that we can accomplish, by gaining that understanding. some lack the understanding of who we are. You know what I'm saying? Because we've been lied to and everything else. So you know what I'm saying? So the truth really needs to be put out there. You know what I'm saying? And you know, and even even in the scriptures, you know, God speaks about that. It speaks about the civil rights movement and when everything started. You know what I mean? And you know, like when you said, brother, when you spoke about us dropping the ball, it made me think about it. It made me think about it. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, these were things, you know, I think about when I was young, I wasn't taught, you know what I'm saying, you know, about the true lineages we come from. You know what I'm saying? And you can go to the book of Acts. Matter of fact, you can go to Matthew 10:11, Acts 20:20, John 18:19. Acts 6:8-11, Daniel 8:23. You know, and God says, "I am that I am that I am." Straight is the gate. You know what I'm saying? And so remember, you know, we come through the bloodline. You know what I'm saying? You know, we have to make sure, you know, pray, you know, for protection and provision for our youth. You know what I'm saying? As we strive to reach them, so they can understand what lineages they come from, so they're not fooled by anybody.
Yeah.
You know, peace,
Right.
peace and elevation, brother.
All right, sis. I thank you. You know, and I got your inbox, and I'm definitely gonna reach out ASAP. And
Most definitely, brother.
yeah. And in the meantime, you keep doing what you're doing, sis.
Already, love and service, brother.
All
Peace
right,
and
brother.
blessings.
Peace and blessings. All right. This is dope. This is dope. I like social media. I like the opportunity to meet up with family members who are in different cities, different states. I believe Sister Silverina, who was just on the line, I believe she's in Michigan, from memory. Saginaw, Michigan, I believe. I met Sister Silverina through a blog talk platform called Pop's Movement. Pop's Movement Radio some years ago. And we formed a little family and community that united a whole lot of people across the Midwest, across the South. And you know, I say long live Pop's Movement and all of the people who participated and was affected by Pop's Movement. I pray that Pop's Movement gets a second wind and will begin to reform and reconstitute itself, you know, to give hope to all of the people that used to call into that show. And there were a whole lot. My Facebook friends list is dominated by many, you know, over 200 different contacts that I made through my time participating in Pop's Movement. You know, so people operating peace systems. I'm ragging my mind trying to remember what POPs stood for. The acronym POPS. People operating peace systems. Sister Vita made mention, and let me say this right quick, and I stated it last week. Again, our community is made up of the people in our community adhere to different belief systems, religious, spiritual belief systems, political, cultural customs, that have, some would say, have divided us. But there's another viewpoint that some of these religious, spiritual, cultural systems were life rafts, you know, that individuals needed to survive this experiment called America, that visited so much pain, so much suffering on us, not just back in slavery times at the inception of this nation, but throughout the generations on up till today. There's so much pain, there's so much suffering going on. And some people have needed the church. Some people have needed the temple. You know, some people have needed, you know, different traditions that caught their attention. And I particularly, as the student that I am, not narrow-minded, not bigoted, but inclusive in my seeking of truth, in my recognition of different traditions that have allowed people to survive. And instead of us, again, downplaying or talking against certain traditions that have allowed people to survive, to, you know, to a degree, to where they have an opportunity to still be here, to have gone through some of the worst treatment that man has perpetuated against man. I'm not going to fight with you over your belief system. What I am going to ask you to do is to be a true believer, not to fall in with the political cliquish, clannish way that some of these religions have been used as a system of control. But I tell you, as a student, some of the very systems that some people look at as a system of control, there's a revolutionary spiritual aspect a lot of times included in those traditions. And it's up to the individual to seek that out. I mean, if you are a Christian, you should be focused on becoming Christ-like in your demeanor, in your mindset, and in your life. I read the Bible. I read Christ saying that I have overcome the world. And you will do what I have done and more. If you truly believe in Christ as your Savior, then you should be striving to become like Christ in your habits, in your customs, in your demeanor, to where you seek to overcome the world the same way, where you seek to overcome the lower leanings of your flesh in the same way, to work out your faith with fear and trembling, to when you are called to account on how you live this life, you can give a good account. That I didn't hide my talents. I didn't hide my gifts. I invested into my talents and my gifts, and I brought increase so that when the master calls you to account, you're able to give a good account of what you did with what you was given. You get what I'm saying? The number to call in is 718-705-4959 or 914-969-6499. So what destroyed the positive presence of parents and adults in the Black/African neighborhoods? What destroyed it? Sister Vida alluded to it when she talked about crack cocaine, the crack cocaine explosion of the 1980s. I grew up in the 70s, and as bad as things may have been, and things were bad at times, but there still was a positive presence of the parents and the adults at that time, like I said in that video. And the parents and the adults, we still practiced a level of respect for each other. You know, there still was remnants of that community bond amongst the parents and the adults. And I dare say, as a young person who came up in the projects, shout out to the fellow members of Eden War Projects, located in the Northeast Bronx, third largest housing development in New York City. That's where I grew up, Eden War Projects. Because there was a level of respect and appreciation that was shown amongst the parents and the adults. That made it easier for us to show respect and appreciation as the children coming up under those parents and the adults. And we used to get out there and we used to do communal things. We used to play softball. We used to play two-hand touch and kick the can, and and the parents and the adults would be out in front of the building, sitting on the bench, talking amongst themselves, and we would be out there too, playing our childhood games, creating that bond in between us as their children. And then all of a sudden, overnight, it was like a nuclear bomb had exploded in our midst. I would say towards the winter of 1984, going into 1985, I would say from memory, that the crack cocaine explosion destroyed, seemingly forever, unless we do something about it, the type of parental and adult bonding that we used to have. The respect that we had for ourselves and each other, that commanded a respect of the young people for the adults and the discipline, that the adults represented. But when crack cocaine hit the neighborhoods, man, that bond was destroyed, man. That respect was destroyed. There was ghost towns, man. There was no more parents sitting on the benches for fear of getting shot up. There was no more two-hand touch and kick the can and manhunt. Some of the childhood games we used to play. Hot peas and butter, come and get your supper, show them my age. Our children, a lot of them don't know nothing about these games that we used to play. These communal bonding practices that we used to have. A lot of the fathers, man, lost their lives and lost their freedom. As the highly addictive substance crack cocaine was inserted into the neighborhoods. Let's take this call. Peace and elevation. Let me know who's calling and where you're calling from.
This is Vita again.
Hey, peace, sis.
Okay. Yes, this is Vita again, Brother Mike.
I got you.
Peace. Yes.
What's on your mind, sis?
Oh, okay. I'm too busy. I was listening. You're so right about taking the parents away, but with the crack cocaine, even though we had a big infusion of heroin in the earlier years, the 70s, brothers coming home from Nam and whatnot, addicted, but also this crack took away the grandparents. So that's like 2 generations for our children were destroyed at that time, And now they have new epidemics of drugs out now, but the thing is that we don't pass this knowledge on to our kids. Now it's great empathy going on for meth users in the Caucasian communities and help and whatnot, but when we were doing it, we were animals, we were incarcerated, and our children need to know all of this history, because what they're smoking now is really scrambling their brains. And this K something that's out lately that have people walking around like zombies, and they're our young folks. And like I said, we're not teaching them, we're not telling them, we're not pointing it out. And as long as we keep silent about who we are, I feel like our babies need to be dripped in blackness. you know, the ancient glory, civilization times, what went on through slavery, you know, age appropriate. As they get older, you teach them more. And then maybe we will have a generation of black aware people that's able to get us out of this situation. But at the rate that it's going, it has to be that history. And, you know, that's just my little, you know, view on it.
Mm-hmm. I definitely thank you for calling back in with your view.
All right, then. Peace.
Peace, sis. You know, family, we are the we that we're looking for. You know, as an activist, as someone who took responsibility for my community, in the Eden Wall Projects, Northeast Bronx area that I grew up in. As someone, you know, who didn't just talk in the safety of the living room, but actually came out into the community. We had a group called the Open Mind Association in Eden Wall Projects. I ran for and became the Tenant Association president for a year in Eden Wall Projects. I ran for and became the first vice president of my local community school board. I was very active in the community board of the area. And then we had a group that we created called the Open Mind Association, made up of Eden Wall residents. Let me take this phone call. Okay, we lost that. Call back in. What I found a lot of times is we treat community leadership as a career choice. We treat the taking up of responsibility to get involved in the community as a career choice, left to that individual who is the Tenant Association president. It's their responsibility to address the issues of our tenancy in this housing development. Or the PTA president. It's their responsibility to represent us or to take care of that, the needs of our children inside the school setting. Or the civic association leader, or, you know, a lot of times, and I attribute this to the ghost of Willie Lynch that we've been talking about, where we've been divided and conquered, where we have been set against one another, male against female, old versus young, light skin versus dark skin, you know, upper middle class versus lower class. So a lot of times when we talk about this that we should do this and we should do that, there is no we, family, a lot of times. There is no we. And by us talking about what we need to do before actually building that we, a lot of times we're putting the cart before the horse. We're putting the cart before the horse. Malcolm X, a month before he was assassinated, and I've said this before, it's something that sticks in my mind so sharply because it offers clear insight to what we need to be doing exactly right now at this time. He said, oh my God, oh man, so many things from Malcolm. He was being interviewed by a lady from the Village Voice. And he said to her that our biggest mistake in the past has been to strive to organize a sleeping people around specific goals. First, we have to wake the people up, and then we'll get some action. He was asked by her, wake them up to what? To their oppression? He said, no, to their own human dignity, to their own self-worth. Not wake them up to the oppression. Because we all know that we have been oppressed over the years, over the generations. We all know that we're still being oppressed now, especially in the age of social media, where all of this oppression is being captured and documented on people's camera phones and people's phones and sent through inboxes, make this go viral, and you know, all of this and that. We all know that we've been oppressed. Oppressed educationally, psychologically, physically, spiritually. We know that we've been oppressed. What we don't know and have not claimed for ourselves is our human dignity. I'll let the phone call come through. We haven't. Yo, who calling and hanging up, man? Stay on the line. We know that we've been oppressed. What we don't know, too many of us, is that we can indeed do something about it. And number one, the first thing is to have enough human dignity and self-worth to stop participating in your own self-destruction, to begin to have new value in your own life, to practice a new relationship of love and appreciation for that life. You gotta break your relationship with participating again in your own self-destruction. And so a lot of us not believing that we have it within ourselves to save ourselves. This is why so many of us participate in using heroin back in the 70s. We talking about the crack cocaine explosion of the 80s. A lot of us we forget. You know, like Sister said, we don't know our history. We forget about the heroin, the introduction of heroin into the black and brown neighborhoods in the 70s, the 60s and 70s. And even less of us remember or know, as finally admitted, I think by the Daily News, they had a article that came out last year where Richard Nixon, the president of the United States at the time in the early 70s, admitted that the Nixon administration purposefully allowed weed and heroin to be flooded into not just the black and brown neighborhoods, but also into the hippie, to silence the white hippies who were talking about peace and flower power, who were opposing the Vietnam War. And I forget this particular age of Richard Nixon, what his name was, but he admitted it. That Richard Nixon, they allowed the drugs to be flooded into the neighborhoods so that they can criminalize black/African people and the so-called white hippie movement. They came up with the Rockefeller drug laws that has made America the most incarcerative country in the entire world. The country that's supposed to be the citadel of freedom and justice is the most incarcerative country in the entire world. Most people don't take notice of the fact that the 13th Amendment that supposedly ended slavery provided a legal loophole to keep slavery going. Slavery shall be, I'm not quoting it verbatim, I'm quoting it from memory. Slavery shall be abolished throughout the Republic, blase, 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 except for in the case of someone who's been duly convicted of a crime. So once you've been convicted of a crime, you can and will be reduced to a state and status of slavery. And the 13th Amendment has been used as the legal loophole to make that happen. I would suggest to you to check out the documentary 13th. And I forgot this sister's name. Beautiful sister who did this documentary. I'll try to remember that before the show goes off, or if someone remembers that, you know, send it through to the live feed, or which is acting up. I got the computer going and I got my phone going. And anyway, I see a lot of you. I appreciate y'all, family, for coming through. But get me that information. The documentary is called 13th. We have another sister, Michelle Alexander, who wrote a book called The New Jim Crow, exposing what is known as the prison industrial complex, and how prisons has become an industry. The building and maintenance of penitentiaries all across this country, it's an industry. And certain groups, particularly black and then Spanish, are like the fodder, you know, so to speak, for the prison industry. And Michelle Alexander, in her book, The New Jim Crow, she calls for prison reform. So we gotta, and let me say this, because I was speaking with one of the family members on the phone. Shout out to my sister LP. As I said earlier, no, I don't believe that there's going to be a 40 million plus miraculous awakening, you know? So when we talk about this we need to do this or we need to do that. We got to start breaking that we down to the lowest common denominator, starting with ourselves. I need to do this and I need to do that. If you sit back and you say things such as, and you're waiting for this we, how many years have you wasted waiting for this we to arrive? Where you could have been more productive in your own individual life. That you could have had a doctorate degree by now. You could have had a thriving business by now. A mentoring program by now. You could have taken ownership of a piece of your community and had a thriving program or business or product or service in the time that you've spent railing against the system or railing against how ignorant some of our family members have been. And in the middle of that, in those two extremes, is you. When we say we need to teach our children, teaching our children is not just what we say out of our mouths. Teaching our children is how we live our lives. On top of what we say out of our mouths, because some of us contradict what we say out of our mouths by doing the exact opposite. Knowing the truth is not enough. Knowing is only half of the battle. If we want to regain the love and the trust of our children, then we got to show our children that we got a pulse. That we have dignity and we have respect as adults. That we're not suckers and we're not soft in our old age. That to get older doesn't mean that you just keel over. I made the best out of it as a father to my son, not having had a father. And a lot of the things that I needed to learn or to come to grips with as a young boy growing up, I had to come to grips with these things by osmosis. I didn't have a father figure. So I had to learn a lot of these things from my peers and, you know, and. And then at a particular point in time, through hip-hop being used, one of my friends was asking me, man, about hip-hop today. How do I feel about it? Do I feel that it's one of the biggest problems right now? And I said, yeah, I do believe it's one of the biggest problems right now. He asked me, do I think that hip-hop could be used, you know, to bring change, positive change into the neighborhoods? And I told him, yeah, I do, because that's what saved my life. Hip-hop being used in that way. That introduced me through hip-hop to Malcolm X, who became my father figure. So we have to, so I didn't have a father, but I got a father figure. My son was conceived by his mom. And I couldn't do what my father did to me and get missing and get low. I had to do the best that I could to be that father, to be a father figure for him. And I did that job to the best of my ability. And I thank my son for listening, for taking advantage of what was offered to him from myself, from his mother, from my mother, his grandmother. I thank my son for taking advantage of what he was offered, because as someone who's worked with young people for the last 30 years in community centers and juvenile detention centers and group homes and foster care, I've seen so many young people who had dynamic parents of their own, but the peer pressure was too strong. The peer pressure got the best of them, and they wasn't able to take ownership of what their parents were offering them. The way my son, to his credit, took advantage. We got a phone call. Peace and elevation. Let us know who's calling, where you calling from, and what's on your mind.
Hey, bro, it's Jessica, and I'm calling from Chicago. What's going on?
Peace, sis. How you doing?
I'm good. I was just, I've been listening, and I was just looking for, you know, the prime opportunity to chime in. And something that,
you can call in. You can call in anytime. You call in whenever you want,
but see,
sis.
I don't want. I know, but see, you know, I just want to make sure that I hear you out. You know what I'm saying? That I hear, and that I can follow, you know, where you're going, so that, you know, when I do call in, you know, I don't want to be all over the place, because, you know, I can, my mind be just zooming. I'm 100 miles an hour. But it was something very important that you said, and you were speaking about the music and how hip-hop saved your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, and then you were speaking about, like, you know, in the 80s, how, you know, the heroin epidemic and how it affected the black community, and how that even when they allowed, child support and, you know, public assistance and all that type of stuff, how all of that just really broke up the family, the black family. But one thing that I wanted to say is, when you spoke about the heroin dynamic, what came to mind was marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I say that is because I was watching the video on Facebook, and they were speaking about medicinal weed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how everybody's trying to jump on the bandwagon with medicinal weed, but how even with that, you know, that's not even, most of it's not even the organic strain. So you think about, like, now, so back in the 80s it was heroin, but now you see everybody smoking weed now. But the thing about it is, what they smoking is mind-altering, you know, is a mind-altering drug. And it's nothing that's really beneficial to the people. You know, it's causing, they doing all type of stuff to it, they adding all type of toxins to it, and it's really affecting the mind. So then when you think about the young people, they smoking and stuff, and then on top of that, they listening to the music that's totally, you know, degrading to just mankind, period. But more importantly to our people, you thinking about two demons interacting at once. There's nothing positive that's going to come out of that. And so what I was thinking about is, because I don't really listen to the music, so a lot of times I let the young people explain to me, like, what are they saying? What are they saying? So I'm thinking, like, what if, you know, we took an opportunity, you know, to talk to the kids and just let them listen to the hip-hop and the lyrics to what, you know, Run DMC, all of them, you know, what they words were saying versus what they're listening to now, you know, and how that music back in the early 80s and 90s, how that was empowering, and then what the music today is. You know, how, you know, what you smoking weed and you talking about loud and you talking about this and this and this, but what is that doing for you? How is that bringing any change to you? You know, what is that, how is that helping you? You know, and then even when you were speaking about being a good father or having, you know, a standing lifestyle in front of the kids, I was watching a video with Roxanne Shante, and she was speaking about gentrification, but then she turned around and said we need to re-gentrify our communities. Versus getting money and moving out of the communities, you get money and move back into the community so that the young people can see, instead of the whole community being ran down and, you know, most of the houses boarded up or everybody on drugs in the area, you do see a millionaire in your community. And you can, you know, you have something to look forward to. You know, everybody in the hood ain't broke. Everybody in the hood ain't hustling. Everybody in the hood ain't, you see what I'm saying? Like, you know, we gotta, when you speak about purpose, we gotta believe in ourselves. And it takes, like you said, we spoke about this the other day, that one person just accepting accountability and responsibility for their people, you know, and then you find someone that's willing to join with you, even if it's a little young brother, young sister. Teach them everything you know. Pour into them so that what they learning, they'll go back and share with somebody else. So, I mean, I know that was a little bit a lot, but I don't know. It's just that purpose, though. You know, we got to get back to that. We got to get back to it. And it ain't in the music. Everybody want to be a rapper. Everybody want to be this. But how you using your music to bring change, though? You know, like Tupac was saying, I was watching one of his interviews, and he was saying how us being out here, you know, black on black crime, it's not they intentionally want to do it, but it's survival. You got two hungry individuals. If it's the last sandwich and I got to feed my family, you got another brother over here got to feed his family. At this point, it's may the best man get the sandwich. You know, we ain't trying to split the sandwich in half and share it. You know, it's like every man for themselves versus coming together. We're not a community no more.
Well, we're becoming one, sis. You know, by people like you, and I appreciate you, and I appreciate many of the other people who are on the live feed. And, you know, like I was saying, you know, the creation of that we. The creation of that we starts with the individual taking ownership over their own lives. And seeking knowledge, seeking to build a relationship with knowledge, wisdom, understanding, and truth. Seeking to vibe on that higher level of the life instead of that lower level. You know, instead of operating their life through sexual lust, instead of operating their life through egotistical pride and I gotta outdo and outshine, you know, and be jealous and envious of others, to know that they have a direct connection with the Most High, through their mind, through their spirit, that there's a higher you that's waiting for you to breathe life into that person so that that person can step forward. But you gotta make the personal decision to begin to vibrate on that higher level in your own life. And it doesn't just happen, you know, from 8:15 to 10:15 on Sunday nights during the Wake Up Project podcast. A lot of the strength that you exhibit in a show like this, it comes from day after day after day striving to return to your own positive purpose and figure out what exactly, you know, what that positive purpose is. And I thank you, sis, for doing that in your own life so that you can overflow that encouragement into the lives of other people. You know, just putting Sister Jessica on the spot right quick. The spirit moved me to call sis yesterday, and my energy wasn't the best. And I don't know what made me call. Well, from my mindset, I appreciate what Sister Jessica's doing as far as striving to become an entrepreneur and just being an overall positive and responsible sister, and how I see her moving on social media. So I was calling her to encourage her. But what happened is it got flipped and she ended up encouraging me. You know, and that's how we're supposed to operate. You know, we're supposed to strive to be the best that we can be. And as we strive to be the best that we can be, we're not operating from scarcity and lack anymore. We're operating from abundance, you know, of love and appreciation and compassion, so that when we meet up with other people who are striving to do the same thing, and they might not be on that positive vibration, where we have something to break them off and to encourage them to stay committed and to keep on going. So I know that she wasn't necessarily looking for me to say that, but that's just the type of brother that I am, because I'm going to thank you 1,000 times, like I said, for doing something, especially when you do something that you didn't have to do, you know? So sis, before you leave, is there anything else that you'd like to share right quick before we move on?
Yeah, and I'm going to make this quick. It's very important, and this is for you, bro, but this is for the listeners as well, more importantly, the listeners. Mm-hmm. It's so imperative that those of you, if you don't have the heart right now, you know, it's cool. Nobody is judging you. You know, everybody is not born to be a leader. Some people look for someone to take the first step and then they join on. You know, some people like being in the background and they like lending support, you know, on the backhand. Nothing wrong with that. You can't have a bunch of chiefs with no Indians. We get that. But what I will say is, when you see somebody that's really trying, man, you gotta support them. You gotta encourage them. Like, don't be afraid to reach out and be like, bro, what you need? How can I help? Sis, what you need? How can I help? Like, don't be afraid to do that, because you never know what's going on the back end. A lot of leaders can't afford to show weakness or anything like that, or some of them don't have that in them to reach out and ask for help, because, you know, they might not even really be there. They be so busy trying to make the next move to keep the movement going. But when you feel like, you know, you need to reach out to somebody, reach out to them. Reach out to Brother Mike. Bro, what you need from me? Bro, you know, we doing this Wake Up Project. I'm supporting you. You need my help. You need finances? Bro, let me help you out. Man, people, do this. Do this. Because when you are blessing to people, you is definitely going to come back tenfold. And that's what I'm going to leave it at that, bro.
Yo.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sis. Thank you so much. And we're going to talk soon. All right. We have the phone call. We have someone. All right, sis. We have another phone caller on the line. Who's speaking,
yes,
please?
Peace and elevation, brother. This is Serena Porter again. Hey, Porter. You know, brother, you know, it's truly a blessing to have this conversation. You know, and I want to share a little bit about my testimony. You know what I'm saying? So maybe it'll help someone that's listening. God blessed me to be a leader. You know what I'm saying? And with that, you know, comes, you know, you go through many trials and tribulations, because when you're out there reaching, you know what I mean, for those who may be going through a struggle, you learn and you struggle with them. You know what I mean? Whether you're helping uplift them, mentor them, counsel them, you know what I'm saying? It comes with trust. You know what I'm saying? And a person has to truly be able to trust God, you know, and trust you to be able to sit and listen. You know, like the sister was saying a minute ago, you know, it also takes support, you know what I'm saying? Whether it's, hey, you know, how you doing today? You know what I'm saying? you know, what you got going, you know, can I assist you in some way? You know, and it's about being a blessing to those, to others, you know, to those around you. You know what I'm saying? God has truly blessed me to be an overcomer. And when I say these things, you know, what he's blessed me with today is will. You know what I'm saying? And so understanding my talent, you know what I'm saying? Every time he gives me a word or something, my life is starting to come together, you know, like a puzzle, like, you know what I'm saying, where, you know, like you said, the word of God stands firm. Mm-hmm. And so when you believe and you trust in God, you know, you could never go wrong, you never fail. There were many times in my life where, you know, I went through so many things, you know what I'm saying, but I always said, you know, do things to the glory of God. You know what I'm saying, to myself. You know, I know this has to do with God. You know what I'm saying? I never really took a lot of things personal, you know what I'm saying, that I went through. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, the gift of helps, you know what I'm saying? You know, I love helping others. You feel me? So, you know, it was, you know, that's just something, you know, by nature, that's what I do. You know what I'm saying? And so what I'm getting at is, you know, accepting who we are as a people. When, you know, when you think about that, you know, I think about everything I've been learning, whether from brothers like you, you know what I'm saying? You're my brother. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, there's been many days where, you know, you would post a video and, you know what I mean, it would be so uplifted, you know, and that's how the spirit works. You know what I'm saying? And so, but I'm truly blessed to say that what God is doing in my life today, you know, and speak on it. You know, he's blessed me, you know, to teach my children, you know, dedication, determination, and discipline, you know, and his word, you know, to trust in him. You know what I'm saying? And so, and with that, you know, God works around us, you know what I'm saying? And so, like, he blessed wonderful brothers, you know, and sisters that come around, you know what I'm saying, that could truly mentor them the truth. You know what I'm saying? And that's what's needed. You know, that's like you said, brother, bringing the community back together. You know what I'm saying? Because there's been so many things, you know what I'm saying, that try to divide us from talking to each other, whether it's, you know, on the phones or whatever. You know, one thing they can't stop is the power, you know what I'm saying, and that God power when you have influence, you know, and you add the principle, you know what I'm saying, to it, you know, then God is working through you, you know what I'm saying, because people start coming to you, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like when we were on Pop's Movement, people were coming because we were giving them the truth, you know what I'm saying, and that's something that God always speaks about, is the truth being spoke about him. See, God is not a religion, he's a spiritual being. God is a spiritual being, you know what I'm saying? So,
thank you, sis.
Yes, you're welcome, brother, you know, and, you know, I wanted to say to you, will do, brother. I'm going to keep pushing, keep pushing, you know what I'm saying? It's peace and elevation. I'm the pushing seed, so you know what I mean? And it's just truly an honor, brother, you know what I'm saying? For that one love that, you know what I'm saying, no matter what. You know, when I think of New York, I always say, hey, that's my brother. You know, if I go to New York, I'm definitely going to go see my brother. You know what I'm saying? Because that love, that family love is there. Okay. You know what I'm saying? And so it's one love submitted, one love received, my brother. Peace and elevation. And thank you for inviting me on Wake Me Up. You know, the Wake Up Project, excuse me. Wake Me Up. Wake Up Project.
All good. All right.
Love and, you know, already.
All right, sis. Thank you. Thank you. All right,
You're
family.
welcome, brother.
We're coming down to, I believe, like 25 minutes, or a little under, give or take. I want to give a shout out right quick to Shamika. She came with the name of the documentary, 13th. The name is Ava DuVernay. Hold up. Ava DuVernay. Ava DuVernay. DuVernay. Ava DuVernay. Check out that documentary, 13th. And for that matter, also get the book, The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. Also, for that matter, go on YouTube, you know, and punch up Ava DuVernay. I believe 13th is on Netflix, at least it was. Michelle Alexander has a host of lectures that she's done in regard to her work with the new Jim Crow, exposing the evils of the prison industrial complex. The name Dr. Joy DeGruy, D-E-G-R-U-Y, in her work, exposing post-traumatic slave disorder, where she connects a lot of the crazy behaviors that we take note of in our community presently. And we don't recognize that a lot of these behaviors have their historical root in what was done to us in the slave experience to rip us out of our natural progression as children of the Most High, as human beings, as children of the Most High. So a lot of times, like I said in one of the past shows, where we take full weight and responsibility for how jacked up we are. And we say things like, we're the only race that don't support one another. And we're the only race that hates on one another. You know, with the work of people like Dr. Joy DeGruy and her work and her book and her, she has a workbook, a book and a workbook. And she's done a host of lectures that you can find on YouTube, where she's exposed how this crazy behavior that exists within the Black/African neighborhoods, of our self-hatred, of our fear, of our doubt, you know, about our own worth. A lot of this was programmed. It was forced into us. You know what I mean? And it was passed along generation by generation by generation, to the point, and us not knowing our history, like Sister Vita was talking about, us not knowing our history, we're disconnected from what happened, what was done. So that's why we take the weight of our own craziness, our own disorders, because we don't know how these things came about. And this system, this country that we're living in, the education system, the movies, the TV, you know, they don't teach the truth on what they did. So a lot of times we don't know why we're so jacked up. And the present day white person, the present day Chinese or Italian or whatever, they don't know why we're jacked up. We think it's our own fault, and they think it's our own fault. And this is why it's so important for us to learn the truth, because the truth is all we got. The truth is all we got. But if we're too reluctant to speak, to learn the truth and then speak the truth, then we don't even have that. I say this to my family, the ones that I know, particularly the ones that I know personally, that I still haven't heard from yet on the Wake Up Project. And we've been on for almost 3 months now. And there's some of you that I know personally that I've taken the time to be your brother, to be your friend, to share my life force with you, to encourage you to keep on pushing. And now you see me struggling to stand in the gap right now to create this venue called the Wake Up Project that we all can participate in and share love and share truth and share compassion for the betterment of ourselves as a people. And you say things to me like, yo, I'm shy. You know I'm shy. And I tell you, no, you're not shy. Because in other things, you're quite bold. And talking about, you know, Jordan versus LeBron, you're quite bold. And you'll get so revved up in emotion that spit will come flying out your mouth as you invest in an argument about two people that you don't even know. But when it comes to a show like this, talking about subject matter that is directly connected to whether we may live in justice and peace or we may die in ignorance, you shy now. That's kind of like what Sister Jessica was just talking about. And I don't believe in shaming and ridiculing and judging. You know, I don't believe that that's a good tactic to build much needed unity with people. So I usually stay far away from judging and shaming and ridiculing. Number one, because I know that I'm not perfect. You know what I mean? I know I deal with bouts of fear and procrastination, where from the outside it may look like, damn, Brother Mike is a dynamic brother. But from the inside looking out, I know that I'm very far away from where I really want to be. And I'm going to keep on striving to get to. And this is why it's so important that we continuously strive to be who we need to be as individuals. And then when we see other people who are striving to be who they're being called to be, instead of not offering them the encouragement that they need and deserve, nah, I got to reach out to that person. I couldn't be who I claim myself to be if I saw somebody else striving to do what I'm striving to do and I didn't find some type of way to try to encourage them. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate every single person that's on the live feed. And I tell you, family, I'm doing the best that I can, multitasking between my notes. I got my Facebook on this computer screen right here. I got my Facebook on my phone. And I'm trying to do honor. There are people who are coming on the live feed. So I'm not going to get at you too heavily. You know what I mean? But I do want to hear your voice. And not only do I want to hear your voice, I talked about a couple of weeks ago that unity, that true unity, is based upon individuals using their strengths to cover the collective weaknesses of others amongst us. So I'm using my strength right now. I'm speaking to you from my strength. But to grow the Wake Up Project and to take it where it needs to be taken to. And I'm working on my vision and my mission statement. I'm working on, with the help of family who's strong and proficient in that, getting my website together. And I'm talking with people about, you know, different apps, you know, that can be links that can be provided on the website to where people who have a care and concern for the work that they see being done, to where they can contribute financially. And that those is areas that I'm weak in, family. I'm an old head, even though I look good for my age. I'm an old head. If I had it my way, man, we'd still be using cassette tapes. You know what I mean? The people in the music stores, man, you know, they had to force me to start using CDs. Because I was going in there, man, yo, you got this on cassette? Until it finally, it was like, yo, they don't ship cassettes to the store anymore. You got to get a CD. And that's how I got pushed into using CDs. There's a lot of opportunities that social media and just computers, period, computer technology is giving us. And we need to be on top of that learning curve. And if you see a way, like Sister Jessica said, if you see a way that something, a niche that you're strong in, that you can add on to the effort, that's how we grow, family. That's how we grow. And don't wait for somebody to come to you. That's another thing that sister was saying, and she's so right on that. Don't wait for somebody to come to you. You see what's being done. Imagine you seeing, your sister and your brother and your mother carrying a sofa, and you were sitting on the porch, and they were struggling with this sofa, trying to bring it into the house, and they didn't ask you to come help. Would you feel comfortable continuing to sit there and watching them struggle, knowing that you have it within yourself to get up and help them? This is the initiatives that we got to start taking. We got to do that for each other. As we come down to the last 15 minutes, there were a few things that I wanted to say, because I want to end this off on a positive note. I was talking about my fatherhood, being a father. And going back to the video we showed earlier. You will always be a parent to your child, a father to your child, a mother to your child. But and for the rest of your life. And your role may change from active duty to inactive duty, so to speak. In the first portion of your child's life, you're trying to do the best that you can to give them the opportunity that they deserve to be able to live life better than you lived it. Taking advantage of your example, of your successes and your failures. Your child is supposed to be able to take it further and farther than you was able to take it. But once your child becomes an adult, that doesn't mean that they don't need you anymore. They just need you in a different way now. And I say to the parents and the adults, the way that our children need us, the ones that have grown children, or maybe don't have children at all. Like we talked about, the family has been decimated. We talked about Richard Nixon playing party to allowing or knowing that drugs were being pushed into the black and brown neighborhoods. The same thing could be said of Ronald Reagan in the 80s. When the crack cocaine explosion happened in the inner city black and brown neighborhoods. Nino Brown said there ain't no Uzis made in Harlem. Ain't no poppy fields, in Harlem. We know that we're not at the root of a lot of the things that have decimated our neighborhoods. And also, like, I'm trying to remember if it was Sister Vita or Sister Jessica who mentioned, we know that the way that they prosecuted, not just legally, but propaganda, on a propaganda level within the media, crackheads, our addictions, we were treated like criminals. Not just the drug dealers and the hustlers, but the abusers, the drug users were treated like criminals. There was no care and concern. Fun was being made of the crackheads, of the dope fiends, leaning and nodding and itching and scratching. Fun was being made. Jokes is being made about those people. But now when it comes to this so-called opioid crisis that's hitting white America, now it's, we got to come to the aid, of the victims. I mention all of that to say that we know that the game is fixed. We know that the game is rigged. We know that our humanity is not regarded with the same respect or care and concern that white people and others' humanity is regarded with. So this is even more so of a reason why we have to stop participating in our own self-hatred, our own fear and doubt and ignorance, our own crabs in the barrel mentality and practice, where we'll see a brother or a sister amongst us fighting through that fear, fighting through that ignorance, fighting through that non-support, not just from the system, but from their own people. Fighting to believe in themselves so that they can climb up the ladder to live life on a higher level. And we've been tricked into, you know, yo, who that nigga think he is to be trying to do what he doing? Get back down here in the bottom of this barrel with us. We got to stop participating in that. To the older, to the family, the role that you got to play now as parents and as adults. Now that you're coming to know better, you have to fight to do better. What role and responsibility do you need to play in the lives of the young people coming up behind us, particularly your own children? Show them that life don't stop at 40. Show them that life don't stop at 50. Show them that life don't stop at 60 and 70. Get into your own internal practice of health and vitality. Fight to eat better. Fight to exercise your body temple. Turn the TV off, man. Stop participating in ratchet TV. I promise you, man, if you saw Love and Hip Hop Season 1, Love and Hip Hop, whatever season it's up to now, it's the same goddamn thing, man. It's the same thing. Ain't no difference. If you seen Basketball Wives Season 1, Basketball Wives, whatever season it is up to now, is the same thing. Stop living your life vicariously through other people and start working to figure out what were you born here to give. Why do you continue to wake up each and every morning? Is it merely to suffer in ignorance and poverty and mediocrity and apathy? Or is there a bigger reason and purpose for your life? Are there some gifts that you forgot that you had, that once upon a time you knew that you had, but you forgot, that you need to breathe life back into? Peace. That's a call? Okay. Get back on your square, family. I promise you, you might not be as young as you used to be, but you're not old. You're not worn out yet. It's just that your focus is on the wrong things. You're focusing on a past that you can never change. And a lot of times our past, if we choose to use it from an empowering point of view, our past will give us hints and clues of what kind of ministry we need to be developing within our own lives. I grew up in the projects, so I have a special affinity for people who, a special love for people who grew up in the projects. That's part of my ministry. I want to bring love and hope and change to the lives of the family who came up in the projects like I did. I came up in a family where there was no father figure. So I have a special affinity, man, for other people who are coming up under that same modality. I watched my mom struggle and strive to work as the mother of 3 male children. So I have a special love and compassion for single mothers, or just mothers, period. And there's a lot of other things that have happened in my life that have shaped me and molded me. And I strive to use my life in the light of truth, to be responsible to my people, to our people. Those who have died and have gone on, those who are alive, and those who are coming up now and in the future that haven't been born yet. I'm striving to live my life in a way where when I'm judged, it may be said of me, job well done. And I'm hoping that some of you will commit yourself to doing the same thing. I'll take that call. Peace and elevation. Please state your name, where you're calling from, and let us know what's on your mind this evening.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you, Sister V.
Great. How you doing, Brother X? Yeah, this is Veronica calling from Chicago. And I just was listening to what you were saying. I was just like, oh, my God, this is so great. You know, what do you want to do? If you're 40, you're not old yet, that's good stuff, brother. I was like, that resonated with my soul because I am 40. I'll be 42 this year. And I wrestle with that. You know, it's like, wow. But anyway, I called in to ask you 2 questions. And you might have hit on this, I think, a little earlier. But I want to ask you about developing self-love as opposed to the inside and the outside hate. And I got another question, but could you elaborate on that one?
Self-love, family, is an active practice. It's an active practice that we got to get into, you know, and it's a day-by-day practice. It's when you get up in the morning and your alarm sounds or whatever. It's about fighting to get out of bed, get out of that comfort, and to get up and to do what you need to do first and foremost for yourself. We got to start eating better. We got to start exercising, getting this body temple in order. We got to start paying attention to the needs of our mental, intellectual capacities. We are the strategists. We got to be the doctors in our own life, the first line of defense. We got to start building up a practical relationship of loving ourselves across the board. When we begin to love ourselves physically, when we begin to take in more and more information to be able to grow as thinkers, you know, so that we can take positive ownership of our ability to choose the type of life we want to live, that will impact our emotional vibrations. And instead of us walking around angry all the time because we're looking at things that we can't control, that we feel we can do nothing about, as we begin to alter our lives for the better, and we begin to see that we have direct control over how our lives are, you know, how our lives are to be maintained, that's going to bring a sense of peace and serenity. You know, we're going to begin to have confidence in ourselves. As we know that we can live better lives that's not dependent upon outside people to give us permission, but we can give ourselves the permission as we begin to relate ourselves as spiritual creatures or children back to the Creator in the positive purpose that He created us in. I know that sounds kind of religious, but it's all good. This is how we begin to practice self-love, sis. You know? And it's a day-by-day thing. For me, you know, I'm in that practice. And I'm striving to get better at it. And the things that I use my life for are uniquely suited to me based upon the talents and gifts that I was given. The talents and gifts that you were given might be different but complementary.
Right.
But the root of you being able to pursue those gifts and take ownership of those gifts and to use those gifts first and foremost for yourself and then for the family at large is you got to take care of the life first. That's the root. You know, if you lose track on what's happening with your body, you will die before you're able to fully manifest who you were called it to be and who you were meant to be. And that almost happened to me a couple of years ago. I was so revved up and so in love with the people. I was so angry about what the system had done to our people that I was living my life for the people first and not for myself first. And a physical malady or disease took root and took hold of your brother's life. I'm a diabetes I'm a diabetes survivor. Like a lot of our people are. Or there might be other ailments that the family, opportunistic ailments that creep up into our lives when we don't pay attention to maintaining that life in the best possible way that we can. And since I've begun to love myself on a day-to-day level in a better way, diabetes has lost the hold that it had on my life at that time. Sis, ask that last question and then we're over the time now when we didn't set up the clock tonight. So we're actually over the time. And I want to be as, it's not your fault, but I'm just, saying that, and I definitely want to respect my brother, DJ Cruz, here, who's on the boards right now, helping us to run this show. I don't want to disrespect his time. What was that last question?
About the alchemist and the alchemy.
Okay. All right. We're going to have to be able to go deeper into that. But the basic answer, an alchemist, according to mythology, an alchemist is someone who was able to turn the base metals of like lead, was able to transform these base metals into gold. Right? A base, just a basic metal like lead was able to, through some type of transform this lead into gold, which is one of the most precious metals, if not just about the most precious metal. I call myself, I'm practicing a sort of mental alchemy. I work as a student, and I'm wide open to different philosophies.
Right.
I'm not anti-Christian, I'm not anti-Muslim, I'm not anti-Buddhism, I'm not anti-anything. I look at myself, my mind, I have a filter, I have a prism to where I'm able, and I have a life, and what I choose to do with this life. So I can go into Christianity and take out of it what is good and wholesome for black people, or for people, period.
Right.
There's many amongst us who think they look at Christianity as a white man's religion. And they say things to people like, yo, if y'all would just let go of Christianity, then we could get our lives together. We can help ourselves. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that point of view.
Right.
I think that you have the mind and you have the freedom to use, Malcolm said, by any means necessary or by all means necessary.
That's right.
So when I call myself, I can take advantage of any philosophy, and I could take it at its most basic form, and I can combine it with a seemingly opposing or different philosophy, and I can find where these two opposing or seemingly opposing philosophies complement one another, and turn the base philosophy that might be synonymous with the lead. And when we're able to combine these complementary philosophies to create a common ground of gold, if that's making sense to you. All right, you gone.
I'm here, brother.
All right.
I'm listening.
So
I'm
we're gonna go more into that because, like I said, we're over the time.
Right.
And I kind of wish that we would have dealt with this a little bit earlier than at the end, but it's all good.
Absolutely, it's all good. The lines are really, really busy tonight.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard to get in a little bit.
Yeah. It's all good. So what I would say to people is don't focus so much on the differences. Focus more on, the needs, the principles, the common interests is what's going to allow us to come together. Don't be so anti what somebody else is doing. Be more pro what you're doing. So if you are into the science of Ma'at, then fully commit yourself to that. Because if you're into Ma'at, but you're worrying about somebody else being a Christian, then you're not fully into Ma'at. Your attention is divided. So you're not in and of yourself, you're not able to give us the best possible example of someone who is practicing Ma'at if you're so focused on what somebody else is doing. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm talking about. Live your life to the highest level of truth that you can comprehend. And if each one of us was focused on ourselves, focused on bringing the best of ourselves to the table, we would have more peace in this world. You know what I mean? We don't have to fight and kill each other off. We can find new ways to cooperate in love and truth. So having said that, I'm going to leave it there. And I thank everyone for coming through to the show and hanging out with us tonight. I'm going to be going back through the comments and catching up on some of, the people who came through and the comments that they left. I wish that I was able to do that during the show, but it's a little hard to do. And Sister V, I'm going to catch up with you soon. Thank you for calling in. And
Absolutely.
having said that,
take a nice one. Good night.
Already. Having said that, I say peace and elevation to the family. And I'll catch you next Sunday.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We jamming? Hell yeah, we jamming. In the